What's going on, everyone? My name's Tenebris Infinite, and storage in Nightingale takes many forms. Do you embrace the chaos with basket placement? Maybe you found a spot to make some neat and organized storage on a wall in your base. Or maybe you risk it all and let your follower decide if those high-grade wood should burn in the fires of your home. There's a ton of ways you can go about setting up storage in the game, but by applying a bit of the things I've learned from building so far, I think I've found a way to make storage that is not only very useful, but also compact and easy to use. I've got this video broken down into each stage of the game, with a small and large scale option for each. If you're looking for a specific stage or storage, all the timestamps will be in the description down below. Now, before we head into the storage designs, let's do a quick rundown of what storage is in Nightingale, and more importantly, where to get everything. Storage is anything that helps with storing or organizing your storage. So these are all of your chests, but as well, all of your shelves and tables. In the early game, you get the angling basket from the tutorial, the weather trunk and the utility shelf from the forest antiquarian realm, and then the simple table from the forest astrolabe. Then, in the mid-game, you get the steamer trunk and the swamp herbarium, and the colossal shelf at the forest hunt just before the end of the main questline. Then, after that, in the late game, you get the dresser and the round table in the ascended antiquarian forest, the footed chest in the ascended antiquarian desert, and lastly, the two-headed shelf in the ascended herbarium forest. So, all of this and the material costs of each storage design will be in a pinned comment down below. So, let's get into these designs now. For our first storage piece, we'll be using the angling baskets, and you can set this up literally at the start of the game, but it can also come in handy when you're going out mining and want a good storage setup that's easy to put together. To build this, we'll first take two angling baskets and place them side by side. Then, we'll take another basket and mesh it into the back of these two, raising it up till it can't go any higher. We'll then build these up and place the last one to have the easiest time placing it. Though, you can also set this up purely as blueprints if you'd like to. You sadly can't stack these any higher without doing some more tricky placement that isn't really worth your time, as this is easy to tile out side by side if you need more storage. Though, if you do need more storage, you'll probably want to build our next early game setup. Again, I use this when I'm going out mining in a desert realm, or following Humbaba and picking up free trees. Each group of baskets nets you 60 storage slots or 6,000 individual items. Easy and simple to set up. So now let's show off a design that's more geared for mass storage. Our second storage setup will supercharge your early game in terms of what you can store. With a bit of a chunky footprint, this still will fit nicely into any starter home and isn't difficult to place or build. We'll start by placing down a utilitarian shelf, then another one, and meet them up with their leg post, turning them to their side to reduce their size. Then we'll place in our weathered trunks, placing them long ways, and matching the blueprint's grid to the outer leg, having two grid spaces over the side. Then we'll take a second one and do the same with it on the other side. Then we'll place two more trunks on top of the ones we just placed down. This is easier to place down from the side rather than the front. Then on top of those four, we'll place down one more in the middle. And then lastly, the one on top, which you might need to jump to place. And with this setup, we just jumped from 60 to 240 slots, with only a relatively small increase in size, at least compared to what you're getting. And you could get this done just as soon as you get to the forest antiquarian realm, which is basically right after the tutorial. It's also incredibly cheap, just 18 lumber and 12 ingots, and you've got enough storage for 24,000 items. Now for our mid-game small storage. A nice little chunk of chests that are easily accessible and don't look like a horrible chest abomination. For this and our next storage, we'll be swapping over to the Voyager steamer trunks. They have the same storage as the weathered trunk, but offer a smaller footprint and are much easier to stack and compress. All of our small storage designs work similarly, but for this, you'll want to make sure your top chest is above the middle one, yet also behind it, so you can access one chest from the face and the other one from the top. To do so, you'll raise the height of the second steamer trunk by a single piece and move it back just behind the front of the middle chest. If you take a few seconds to get the positioning just right, you can wind up with a very neat and small size storage. With this, you're getting 160 slots of storage for like a quarter of the size of our last storage system. 16,000 items, all easily accessed in one neat place. So for our next storage system, this is where we're getting to the really crazy storage. This is a setup you might have seen in my previous video on the best beef Wellington farm in the game. If you haven't seen that yet, I highly advise giving it a watch. But for this setup, we'll be placing down 8 steamer trunks, all on one utilitarian shelf. To set this up, we'll place down our utilitarian shelf, then place our steamer trunks on the bottom, lining them up with the centerpiece of wood on the bottom shelf. You'll want to come out from the shelf by a grid space in order to have easier placement of your next set of trunks. After that, placement should be pretty easy. You'll place them on top of your previous trunks for 4 more, then place the final 2 horizontally on top. And then, with that easy to build storage setup, you have 320 storage slots, or 32,000 individual items. Just madness. But we have one more level to go here. And to get to this level, we're going to use the footed chests you receive after heading to your first set of Ascended Realms after reaching the Watch. There is another endgame storage piece in the dresser, but it has 5 less slots and takes up triple the space, so all our designs will center around the footed chest here, though the dresser does look very nice as a decorational piece. So for our small setup, this is extremely simple to put together. You'll just take your first chest, then lay 2 chests out horizontally. Then you'll raise your last chest as high as it can, and place that. And that's all you need for a compact and tileable endgame storage. At just 16 gilded lumber, 8 hinges, and 4 gold ingots, this is really cheap when you have a good supply of gold and gilded lumber, and you could just make your hinges out of tin to keep things even more cheap. In this setup alone, you have 220 slots, or 22,000 items, and I think the setup looks pretty decent too, while still maintaining the accessibility that a good storage system should have. And for the creme de la creme here, an awesome endgame storage space for all your endgame needs. 8 footed chests, all in the space of 2 simple tables. To set this up, we'll start by placing down our table setup. 2 tables facing towards us and 1 at the back horizontally. You'll want to line the tables up with their front leg. Once you have your 3 tables placed down, you'll then start putting in the footed chests. For this, you'll take your first chest and line it up with that table leg. This will push it out slightly, which you want. And then you'll place 2 more chests, this time with the long side facing away from you and under the table, making sure that they stick out from that first chest so that you can access them still. Then we'll copy that first design and place it on the second tier. Then for the top, we'll climb on up and place down 2 more footed chests. You'll place one down, then the other you'll want to raise as high as it can go so that you can access them both. And with that, your storage setup is basically complete. All you need to do now is drop in the resources, which is 32 gilded lumber, 6 normal lumber, 16 hinges, and 8 gold ingots. A bit pricey, but honestly nothing too bad, especially if you've been following along with my guides here. And the nice thing about this storage is if you need to adjust things, it's much easier than the other storage systems, as the support comes mainly from the tables instead of the storage chests themselves. And with this setup, you get a ridiculous 44,000 items, or 440 slots. So there you go, all your storage needs for every stage of the game. And the best part is, with this information, you could go off and even make your own storage systems to suit your needs. Or you could follow some of my builds if you find figuring that stuff out to be a hassle. But either way, thank you for watching, subscribe to maybe stick around for more Nightingale content, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.